Okay, I'd like to meet this meeting to order tonight, the special meeting, the Village Board of Trustees, October 21st, 2024. Clerk Reneke, please call the roll.
Trustee Alfano? Here. Trustee Cordova?
Here.
Trustee Corkery? Trustee Kosar?
Here.
Trustee Kumar? Here. Trustee Patrick? President Kazan?
Here. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together this evening. May we have meaningful discussions that will help us to assist our village in these trying times. Help us to make the decisions that will affect the staff, directors, and residents of Villa Park. Guide us through the challenges we face, and may we approach each other with respect and kindness as one group. In your name, amen. Okay, so tonight's meeting is 2025 budget workshop and department presentations. And we will turn it over to Village Manager Harline to begin.
Thank you all for making time in your schedule and for being here for this third annual budget meeting. We put together some slides to go through the budget department by department, and we mean this to be fairly informal, so if you have questions, feel free to ask questions as we go. Each department has put together their budget. We've gone through budget meetings with the village manager's office and the finance department. Gone through a very rough first half. Most of the requests are still in here. There are probably a couple of $1 million just out of the general fund that will probably be removed. We've got some challenges coming up if we don't either reduce spending or find additional revenue at some point for that fund. We have been helped the last few years with the funds received from the federal government, and then we've had a $10 million grant from the state government to help towards the recreation center, and we've spent that and we're spending that in the $7.4 million bond, cash from that. So those monies, which made the budget look rather large the last couple of years, will go away, and we'll return to a more regular $25, $26 million general fund, and an overall budget somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 million for all the operations of the village. And that's kind of what's reflected in this year's, begins to be reflected again in this year's budget. So the introductory slide, the order we're going to go through is, first we're going to go through what we call Budget 101. Is that not picking up? Budget 101, and in Budget 101 basically go through how the budget's put together. We also cover the village manager's office and finance department. And then community economic development, police department, fire department, the village manager's office and public affairs and finance is handled separately. After the fire department, parks and recreation, public works, and then finally the capital improvement projects budget. So, and I'm going to hand it over at this point to our finance director to go through the Budget 101 part of the presentation. Thanks.
Is working? All right. I'm hoping it is. One of the things that we're very proud of that we have had and will continue to maintain is the Distinguished Budget Award, Presentation Award, GFOA. All this process, all these presentations compile to a document which we present to GFOA, and GFOA reviews it for its content and what it should present. And we have, through the time I've been here and all those years before, been able to achieve awards for this presentation. So I always want to make sure that I mention that, and that because of all the time that we spend, it's good to be recognized in such a manner. So we can say, what is a budget? A budget is a tool. It's a financial, operating, planning, communication tool that's always changing and always something that we set as our bar. Whereas accounting is a set of rules for recording revenues and expenses, certainly different from that. The budget is a financial plan. 3 stages: the budget creation, adoption, execution, and that's largely accounting, and then audit and review. And as I've talked about, the GFOA review of the budget document. Our challenges always are balancing revenues and expenses in the period, and it's always the case that costs are changing, increasing quicker than we can react to. So we have to be very astute and very diligent with how we manage resources, because by the time we get to determining what we need, the cost is increased. The village is behind on facility maintenance, fleet maintenance, wages. We're in negotiations with FOP. There are a lot of things that we have to consider in our challenges to presenting a balanced budget. We've got the grocery tax that is going away without any action. We can decide whether we want to add a tax or not ourselves, but that's another bit of revenue that is not going to be part of our mix. And there are other revenue enhancements we can do to compensate for that. What is the budget process? We submit information at certain levels with departments. The village manager proposes a budget, and we have public discussion before we get to the point where we present it to you for approval, and that is the budget process. The budget calendar, the first parts are underway. This budget workshop and the capital appropriations. The proposed budget will be online and available for comment. The public will have a chance to look at the budget after the date that you see. Fiscal year begins on January 1st, 2025. You can see our budget calendar. It looks like an eye chart, but you can see where we are in the budget calendar in our process. I don't know if the first one's easier to read or not. And this is another illustration of that budget timeline in the calendar and the dates that we give ourselves to make sure that by the end of the year, we have gone through the whole process of preparing the budget, reviewing it, the manager presenting it, the public being able to review it, and presenting it to you for approval, so that we made our deadline to have this on file with the various deadlines and with the county. These are the budget filing documents that will be filed with the county clerk. You can see the budget and appropriations. Again, with that are other documents, including our tax levy and the certification of the levy, and all those things that have to be done by this time, in time, by the end of the year. There are different types of funds in our structure. Our largest is, of course, the operating funds and the governmental type funds, and those capital funds. And there are also some business type funds, if you think of those things with our utilities and how we operate that. More of how it would be operated in the private sector. The governmental funds, you can see which ones are included there. the general fund, the TIFs, MFT, hotel motel tax, the NESDRA, the special recreation funds, Parks and Rec, debt service, and then an amount that is working cash that we use to fund any emergencies or any special needs that we have without affecting the structure of the other funds. The capital funds, as you see here, street improvement, we've got some other capital funds, equipment, land and building improvement, stormwater buyout, the DUI tech fund, and drug control. Those business type funds, as I talked about earlier, water, sewer, the pool, again, operates in quasi manners to how it would be in the private sector. Proposed revenue snapshot, and you can see what types of revenues and the sources there of the amounts, and property tax for sure, charges for services, and then the sales tax. So as I think I said this last year too, Villa Park is fortunate in that there's rather a balance of those three. A lot of municipalities aren't structured such that they have a balance of revenues. You can see there are other things that go in there. There are other taxes, there's licenses and permits, and other items that make up our revenue structure. Again, another slide to show you how our levy really works and what we're levying for. If you look at really the two components here, police and fire pensions and debt service, you're already 70% of that number. So we levy for TIFs, we levy for general corporate purposes and recreation, but again, these are the items that are the big parts of our levy, and our levy, especially as it comes to police and fire pensions, are to meet an obligation that's set outside our control at the state level to be 90% funded by 2040. So expenditures, you can see most of those are in the general fund and the other funds involved there. There's stormwater, you can see those other funds, but it's basically balanced, and it's balanced with the revenue slide that you saw before. Organizational priorities from strategic plans. I don't know if Matt wants to speak to that. Financial resistance, sustainable infrastructure, and he can speak to that.
These last couple slides I added in there. These are last year we actually the slide just before this too. There's something on. There's a slide that is. Okay, okay. Anyway, we put together some new organizational priorities from the strategic plan and the strategic planning process. We had four main goals. The first one was for financial resistance, and the three targets in there were increased residential development, increased commercial development, increased operational efficiency. Sustainable infrastructure, the three targets were 2014 referendum projects completed, including sewer separation, improved village-owned assets and fleet, and improved transportation network. And then the others were community engagement with community bridges built, a well-informed community, and transparent government. Finally, workforce development was the fourth identified key strategic goal, and that was workforce. The targets there were staff capacity to meet service demands, satisfied and engaged workforce, and future needs managed. From this, these are what we're going to be looking at doing in next year. Here are some priorities we had last year and that we have addressed in the last year. The initiatives and expected outcomes from last year: construct and open the recreation center. That's almost done, January 2025. Strategic planning is in the implementation phase. Initiate a leadership academy. It's done. We'll be having our 7th class this week. Initiate the St. Charles Road Commercial Corridor TIF. That is done. We're looking at launching our first major project there. Launch community customer service software. That's done. That's the My Villa Park GoGov. And initiate vehicle lease program. That's done, but we're reevaluating and seeing if we're going to be implementing a second year of that, and we'll see in the future how, if we want to narrow that or continue that, as the availability of vehicles is more, it's more easy to obtain vehicles, regular purchase, and then you don't have to pay any interest, and you don't have to, and we also have our own in-house maintenance, which is one of the things that some villages use the fleet program with Enterprise for. That doesn't offer us, that's not an advantage for the village of Villa Park because we do our own in-house. And then finally, one other part of the overview of the 2025 budget, some of our organization priorities. These are initiatives. There are a number of other initiatives. These are just some that we're looking at addressing this year from the strategic plan. Develop a quarterly financial report with the implementation of the BSA software, one that is regular and easily read. We've been giving quarterly financial reports, but we'll make that a much more regular and much more useful tool as that is implemented. That's supposed to be, our go live is in February of 2025. Develop a business growth and retention strategy. That's also under financial resilience. That is underway. Sustainable infrastructure. Develop a 2014 referendum project plan, and that's well underway and should be available soon. Develop a street pavement improvement plan. You'll see a lot of that tonight, and as well as a long-term vehicle replacement plan. They aren't in a document form yet, but those last two, we have the outline of what we're going to be recommending. In the community engagement, we develop a comprehensive community information strategy. That's something we'll work on with the addition of Riley Puller to our staff. I think we've improved our community information delivery, and now to put it into a coherent strategy is one of the things that was among the initiatives from the strategic plan. Also, develop a public-facing popular annual financial report module. Every year we do an annual consolidated financial report. Some people just refer to it as the audit, but that document is about 200 pages long, and it's designed for financial institutions to track what the village is doing. It's not really designed for the public. A lot of cities have produced now a popular annual financial report, and that's a goal to have that ready with the audit that is currently underway, almost done from the 2023 year. And of course, next year starting with an audit firm in place and no other problems, we will hope to get the audit done much sooner than October. To complete a trust needs assessment was also part of the community engagement. That's something we'll begin to work on as we begin the new year. Something to work on a regular citizen survey. We've been doing, as is discussed in the next section of initiatives, an annual workplace survey, which we will develop into a full strategy. But part of developing, one of the things that was brought up during strategic plan is develop that trust needs assessment, and there's another piece that goes along with that, and so that's something we will be working on. Also developing a leadership skills development strategy. We've got a leadership academy The idea is to develop that into a coherent philosophy across the organization, part of the, again, from the strategic plan, annual workplace survey strategy, which will build largely on what we've been doing the last couple of years, and then an organizational succession plan, which will probably be, which will give general direction to some things that we're already trying to put in place in some of the departments. So those are some of the organization priorities for 2025, and I appreciate the opportunity to present the budget this way to you, and I'm glad that you're giving up a third Monday in October to be with us. So next up is Community Economic Development, unless you guys have some questions.
Any questions from the board? Okay. No.
Yeah,
go,
can
Mark.
we go back to the slide just before this?
Okay.
Yeah, so, the workplace survey, I mean, all of these come from the various strategic goals that we set forth, I assume. Some of them is only the complete a trust needs assessment. That's part of what I think is community outreach. But we also have an issue with communication. Still not I mean, we've got the new software in, but there's still some communication gaps and holes, I think, that need to be addressed, which is a part of this
Right here?
situation. I don't see any of that in there. And that was part of the strategic plan, I think, what you put up before as an organizational priority. It's kind of the only priority, I think, that wasn't completely completed.
So these are taken directly from the strategic plan, and we can, if there's, there are, but that's not all of the initiatives. There are some other
There's
ones.
some initiatives that aren't on here. Are you moving them to the next year, or is the plan to kind of address them later? What's
These-
the deal?
Well, these are the top priorities for next year. There is only so much you can fit on so many slides, but yeah, we're going to be working on all of them. These are some of the ones I think we can get a lot farther on in 1 year. I looked through some of them, and some are going to take a little bit longer. But most of these, a lot of these are plans, and a lot of these will be able to be have the plan completed in the first year.
Okay,
Although implementation of the plan obviously will take longer.
okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
I do have a question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Going back to the slide with our outcomes that have been completed with the launching customer service software. I know that we've done that. Is there a plan to kind of monitor that to make sure that it is working the way that we want it to?
Yes, we monitor it. We can, one of the things I was going to look at the next month actually was to start getting some regular reports to the staff about, or to the department heads and to the board about. I know that I gave you a tiny bit of information about how many we've had over 600 requests through the GoGov system, which includes my Villa Park. So I think it'd be useful to show you some of the data and how long that they stay open. And we'll get that to you guys so you can monitor how effective it's being in getting responses.
Thank you.
Trustee Cooley.
Along those same lines, so Gogo, you said there's 600 requests. If we could have a breakdown by department also, I think you just said that, and kind of with those requests, because maybe some departments are overwhelmed by requests where others aren't, then it would help us in determining, future plans for that department in terms of hiring staff and stuff like that, I would figure.
Sure. I mean, the vast majority in that system is always going to be Public Works and
Public
then
Works, yeah.
Community Economic Development. Hopefully, people aren't using this if they have an emergency. We have had one person who sent something in that was sort of like an emergency, and we're going to work to make sure that that goes directly to some, if, GoGov is not the proper instrument to use to say my house is on fire. Because, you know, they are not monitored, there's not somebody monitoring 24/7 all the time.
I think a disclaimer needs to be on there then, anyway, because people don't think it through. I would put a disclaimer on our website somewhere that says this is not 24-hour monitoring, just to be on the safe side, honestly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we want to move on?
Good evening. All right. We start off with the department org chart as reflective in the 2025 budget requests. As you can see, it's broken down primarily between two segments: the deputy director, Michelle in the back, who's here this evening, who handles primarily office internal staff, and then our inspection supervisor, who's not here this evening, but she primarily handles the in-field and out-of-office staff. This org chart also reflects the two positions that have been requested. One is the full-time plans examiner. That is specifically to help customer service and reduce the time that building permits are in review for residents, for business owners, for contractors, everyone. We believe that we can reduce from our 14-day turnaround to a 8-day turnaround with the creation of that position, as well as the GIS tech, which is a shared position between my department, Public Works, and Parks and Rec. That would be an internal staff, so that would be under the deputy director's review. 2024 accomplishments. This was a big budget year for us. Just a couple of highlights. We implemented the 2021 ICC building code. Remember, we adopted that last year, and we actually implemented it starting January 1 of this year. As noted, we hired a deputy director, created the TIF 7 and all the meetings leading up to that creation. We're continuing to work with BSNA on rolling out the ERP software, where community and economic development is a substantial part of that, with all our building permits, code enforcement, business licensing, all that is going to be built into that ERP. We managed the public outreach and drafting of the comprehensive plan with our consultants, HLA. We also authored the two parking studies, the Villa Avenue and the Ardmore, with KLOA. We authored and approved the tree and plant species list that was requested. We've been constantly updating our policies and procedures regarding code enforcement. We streamlined our permitting procedures so we can get permits out quicker. And then most recently, we authored 3 TIF grant programs, and we authored a revised Historic Preservation Awards program, which I will note is out right now and available for submission until December 31st. Our goals for next year is that we want to republish the entire community and economic development section of the website. Right now it's broken into 2 sections, as it historically has been, and now it's time to actually create that as one solid department, getting rid of the hundreds of pages that are within community and economic development and streamlining so people can get there within 2 clicks. We're also going to include planning and zoning, EDC, and the HPC in our revisions. We'd like to research and map all of the known variations, special use, plan developments, annexation agreements, and redevelopment agreements, basically everything that's on the books that should be mapped geographically for quick reference, that if someone's looking for information on a property, you know that that property, because it's hashed, has a variation. And so if they apply for a permit, you pull the variation, and all the information is at our fingertips in our GIS system and not in the archives in the basement. We plan on surveying and vacating all the green alleys in the community. We're going to continue our records retention program. Additionally, draft some more zoning text amendments to clean up the code. We're going to actually implement our new permitting software. And by doing so, we also have to discontinue 2 softwares, DACRA, which is our code enforcement ticketing software, and CityView, which is our primary permitting and code enforcement software. In 25, we will adopt the comprehensive plan. And then we also have to post, conduct, and hire that plans examiner. And we're going to continue digitizing 20 years of building permits, which Illinois records retention has allowed us to destroy once digitized, then cleaning up the physical space of our office and our facilities. And then finally, we want to implement the new marketing for the historic Ardmore, the Old Town, and the Uptown districts, which will include signage, physical marketing, and maybe some streetscape. TIF budgets, a little bit different. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago. So TIF 3, North Avenue. The goal for 2025 is to pursue the acquisition of strategic properties for future redevelopment. TIF 3 has been in a growing phase, and by that I mean it has been accumulating funds in the account without an expenditure. We are at the point now where we have a lump sum that we can actually go out and try and acquire properties to then be asbestos abated, environmental abated, demoed, and have a clean building site. The idea is to go for a whole block or plus or minus 3-acre sites, depending on how that is up and down the corridor. I'm not prepared to show any particular properties because this is a public meeting and that would be inappropriate. But whole block, 3 acres plus or minus is what the goal would be. TIF 5, Kenilworth. We have budgeted dollars to design and engineer the museum parking lot and a pedestrian connection from the existing parking lot, the parking areas on the south side of the museum. So on the street parking, there's no pedestrian connection to the Prairie Path or the parking lot or to the museum. So we want to look at it holistically, basically between Park and Central, including the parking lots, and how do we redesign that? And so we've got some dollars in there to design and engineer, not to construct, but to design and engineer this year so that we can construct next year. TIF 6, North Avenue, we'd like to design, engineer, and construct the Terrace Street Alley. And so that is the alley just north of Terrace Street that is ours, has multiple property owners attributing to it, and so it is going to be ours indefinitely, and then actually put in a real alley with real access to connect Ardmore through. And then TIF 7, St. Charles Corridor, again, brand new TIF, started it this year. The idea is to target properties eligible for the TIF grant program. No big projects because there's no money in there as of yet. We have to get a tax cycle through there, but we do want to still target some properties and work with them on that. And then, one of my slides, yep, lost one. Okay, so we've got projects to start in 2025. In TIF 6, Ecoterra, Garden Station, Hawthorne, whatever you'd like to refer to it as. And then in TIF 7, the Union. Both of these would like to be starting construction as soon as possible in the new year. We are also looking at a 16-lot subdivision with an extension of Princeton Avenue, potentially 16 new single-family detached homes. The construction of this would happen next year, and the homes would be built as needed over the course of the next couple of years. If one home takes a year, you can do maybe 1.5 at a time, a couple years worth of new growth in this particular block. Bell Tire is expected to break ground in 2025. And additionally, Rose Paving at 600 North Villa is expected to move in next year, and they will potentially be the largest employer in Villa Park. So there's a big deal.
Who's the current largest employer?
District 88. Yeah. With that, any questions?
Rose Paving, 600 North Villa, is that right by Bone, or no?
Manor
Never
and
mind,
Villa.
yeah, Manor, okay, that's right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just because.
With risk of digressing into other matters, but what is the status of Ecoterra?
It's actually on the village's manager's plate, and I can.
We have received some information about financing. I'm going to send him a letter this week to get some more details about that. And I'm just going to leave, I'll share the rest with the board. I don't want to,
Yeah.
it's not,
It's close enough,
yeah, they haven't broken ground yet, as you've noticed.
right. They had 90 days and they've exceeded that 90 days, so they're in their next 90 days, is that?
They submitted their proof of financing on the 90th day, so I'm now analyzing what they sent us. So they're now in this, yeah.
Just call the roll.
I don't want to lose sight of the accomplishments that Community and Economic Development had. I mean, that's a hit list of some really, really good stuff that you guys done, so
Thank you.
great work.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Good evening, and with the police department, we're very excited about about Bell Tire coming, and I just wanted to add that. So, before I get started, a quick summary. In this next budget cycle, we're going to be pulling back on new technology and new equipment, and we're going to have a focus on compensation, security, buildings and grounds, current vendor contracts, maintenance agreements, and as I had talked about last year, we're going to be facing a crisis going in 2025, and that's we're going to be losing about 100 years of experience, of a police experience, with 4 people possibly retiring in 2025. It's going to take us a considerable amount of time to get that experience back, but I think the people that we currently have are going to be up to the challenge to at least try to accomplish that. What we do as a police department, we maintain public order and safety. We enforce state and local laws. We prevent, detect, and investigate any kind of criminal activity. What we also do is we do, obviously, traffic enforcement, as you see out there. We handle a myriad of mental health and related calls, substance abuse, homelessness, people in mental crisis. All of our officers are trained in CIT to handle these kinds of calls, and it's very serious, and I must say, as a group, we handle them very, very well. We're also attached to many special events that go on in town. We have 2 school officers, one at the high school, one at the middle school, and they handle a lot of the issues that go on in the schools. And lastly, whatever the public deems necessary, dog calls, trees in the roadway, basically anything that happens after business hours or on the weekend, we're the first point of contact if there's a water main break, and then we'll make the appropriate call out to that department. And who we are as a group, we're 1 chief, 2 deputy chiefs, 6 patrol sergeants, 1 detective sergeant, 1 training sergeant. We currently have 22 officers, 7 detectives, 4 part-time officers, 2 full-time community service officers, 2 part-time community service officers, 1 record supervisor, 6 record clerks, and 1 evidence custodian who works full-time. The major causes of our budgetary increase year in and year out is salary increases, and along that, obviously, pension increases that go along with those salaries. We also have spiraling equipment and vendor costs, and we saw a huge increase in costs during COVID. And it's recessed somewhat, but not to the point of where budgetarily it's going to help us any. We also have increased training hours due to the Safety Act, and so we've also had to increase our training budget accordingly. Some of the big ticket items in our different accounts for the police administration, it's pensions, benefits, some training and supplies. Police records, it's DUCOM, and that DUCOM bill is about over $575,000 alone in the records account, and obviously salaries. And then for police detectives, we have FLOC, DUMEG, investigative software, which is very expensive, and salaries also. And then for patrol, we have salaries for police officers, community service officers, and part-time officers. We also have contractual body-worn cameras and in-car and any kind of range costs that we may have. We had also did a breakdown a couple years ago of estimated costs for training. And in 2024, we came up with a number of $791.74 per officer, or $30,877, and that's just for the Safety Act in addition to the training we already have. So as you can see, it is quite costly. One of the things that we've added in 2024 was 3 full-time officers, 2 part-time officers, 1 full-time community service officer, and 1 part-time community service officer. On the day shift alone today, we have 3 officers training, so it brings its own kind of youthful exuberance and excitement. So it's a good time in our police department as we train these individuals. Now going back to the training supervisor or training sergeant's position, this person is responsible for training all the officers, making sure that their certificates and their files and folders are up to and that they're current, and also they have to maintain certain certificates for training. So the training supervisor also provides some of the training for the officers as well as signing up and scheduling all the training for all the officers out of town. It's a quite costly and lengthy process, and that training supervisor is kept increasingly busy by all that. Last year, we had hired a 39th officer as a floating officer. This year, we're going to have a 40th officer, and that person is currently being trained as we anticipate an officer who's going to retire in January. That officer is probably going to be done with their training completely at the end of October, and then ready to be street ready just in time for November. And then the 2 officers we sent to the academy, those 2 officers should be ready about the middle of December, just in time for Christmas and all the officers who would like to take time off during those times. So as a new officer, lower on the totem pole, you're probably expected to work those holidays, as we know. Some of the new equipment and facilities requests we have is 4 squad cars through our leasing program. There's going to be a focus on human capital, as I said, through compensation. We're going to request 2 additional flock cameras. Our social worker grant, we're working on part 2 of the social worker grant as we come to the end of this first phase, and we're currently applying for that. We're hoping to get a security fence for the entire parking lot to create better security for our lot, and also look for new flooring on the second floor, which is at this point at least 20 years old. The budgetary increases we anticipate, looking at the numbers for police administration, is 9.7%, police records 8.8%, police detectives 11.6%, police patrol about 4.5%, and DUI tech fund, we're happy to say, is actually going down because that's related to the amount of DUIs that are out there that we arrest. So it's an ever decreasing number due to Uber and Lyft and shared rides and things like that. So, and also the drug seizure fund, we're hoping for that program to take off soon with our officer who's working currently with a federal agency. And for an overall budgetary increase of 4%, and this does not account for pension numbers, which are going to be rolled in fairly soon, and then that'll be expected to go up slightly. Do we have any questions or comments?
So it says 6.4%. Is that what you should?
Overall, 4%, it's just 4%, but it does not include pension numbers, which is expected to have that number go up. Because our pension is somewhere around anywhere from 22 to 25% of our overall budget.
Okay, yeah, because the number said 6.4 in our.
You might have had
old
an
packet.
older version of
Oh, yeah.
the PowerPoint. I just updated some numbers, I apologize.
Okay.
FOIA requests, have you seen a lot more now with the new law?
Where do I start? This could be a program unto itself. Our FOIA officer is inundated daily, and that's all she does for her entire time there. We get a lot of requests out of state for people who want to get our videos that we redact, and it takes a lengthy process to do that just so they can put them on their websites or on their YouTube channels. It serves no other purpose, and I do really wish that the legislators would take a look at that and actually charge a fee, because these people are getting rich off the work and off the sweat of our officers, literally. We have a large amount of FOIAs. One incident could result in 40 different videos that has to be redacted. Through the manager's allotment, we came up with an increased software program, enhanced the software program through our body-worn camera vendor, which has been a tremendous help, but it still takes a lengthy amount of time.
Yeah. DuPage managers and mayors are looking at that. That's one of their big pushes for legislative lobbying downstate, is changing that FOIA law. So, and actually, we're meeting tomorrow, legislative committee, so and that'll be one of the topics.
Well, you know my view.
Yeah, a lot of police officers do.
Yes.
So, okay. Just go over.
The drug seizure fund, can you just chat, it's 0 now because it hasn't gone, but there is an officer in a federal program. How does that work with getting funding for that?
Right, it's stagnant. There's actually 2 different funds. One's a state fund, one's a federal fund. And the officer that we have with a federal agency, we're hoping that as investigations roll in, as seizures occur, that fund and that money will go up, which then gives us some flexibility budgetarily wise. And then state-wise, I believe we had an amount of about $5,700, but that's pretty much stayed stagnant over the past 3 to 4 years.
And you get money because we have an officer there that's
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, and anything that we perhaps seize, we can go a couple different ways. Let's say a normal traffic stop, and they might have something in their vehicle that allows us to seize. We can go through it administratively, which means we just put a hold on it, go through administrative end. They pay a fee to get that vehicle out, or then we can go through the state process and do a full-out seizure through maybe like an Article 36 seizure if they have a gun or a controlled substance.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Good, thanks, Chief.
Just on that drug seizure, so these are the expenditures. Revenues, if we got revenues, would allow for expenditures, but we don't plan them until we actually have the money in hand. And if there's a large seizure and our officer is part of it, we get a portion of it based on their amount of work on it. And, so we've got there are some possibilities in the future. Of course, we got into the program to build our relationship with the federal law enforcement. So if that would be a bonus if we got money from that program.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Before we start, Deputy Chief Reposh is still alive. He's doing great. No gray hairs. Think I treat you pretty good? Also, Deputy Chief Mitsuka's here just to show support. But the fire department presents you a very conservative budget. We're rebuilding, like we've discussed before. Rebuilding our experience, trying to get up to our authorized staffing levels. Currently, we have 4 vacancies and 1 non-duty related long-term unpaid medical leave. So 5 vacancies. Hopefully tomorrow at the Fire and Police Commission, they give me permission to give 4 conditional offers to our candidates on our list. And then we could start replenishing some of the supplies. The 3 staff that you approved in last year's budget, unfortunately, we still have not been able to hire. It's a national trend of no one wants to be a firefighter paramedic anymore. So if any of you are interested, I'll take you. We need people. Hosanna, even you. I'll take you. So I'm not going to go over and read every budget to respect your time. PowerPoint slide. But the fire department is broken up into 4 divisions. We have administration, protection, prevention, and ambulance operations. Our fire department administration has changed from last year with the addition of the new deputy fire chief of administration. We have the 2 fire stations, Station 81, 1440 South Ardmore, which was built in 1975, and Station 82 at 102 West Plymouth, which was built in 1967. Our fire prevention programs we're going to continue with. Some of the big highlights are the first grade 3-week fire safety program, our open house that we just had 2 weeks ago. One of the big changes is with the purchase of the new AEDs for the village. We're going to be taking the lead on the CPR instruction and the maintenance of all of the AEDs. So they're all the same type of equipment village-wide. And everyone's going to have the same type of training. Fire protection. Again, what the goal of our protection is to train and equip our firefighters with the best classes and the best equipment we can. With this comes a slight increase in our training budget. This is in part of the potential 4 new hires if we have to send them to the fire academy. The fire academy is a $4,500 class. Times 4, that's $18,000 plus mileage. With a young department, we need to train our firefighters. We've had the highest participation in outside training that I think we've ever had, and that is awesome. That's a testament to their professionalism and their dedication, because the more training they get, the smarter they are, and we try to increase that experience level that we lost with the recent retirements in the last 4 years. Our ambulance operations, we currently run 2 ALS ambulances. Part of the budget includes the firefighter paramedic salaries, the uniforms, the DUCOM shares, which, as the police chief mentioned, have increased about 14% for us also. And then we have some minor non-capital equipment purchases, some portable suction units and some binder lifts, which those are devices used to help to lift patients up off a floor to try to prevent some of the injuries that firefighters sustain when they're in cramped quarters and they're trying to lift anywhere from a 200 to 400 pound person off the floor. So vehicles. Later this year, we're going to probably bring before you seeking to authorize to purchase our next ambulance because it has a 2 to 2.5 year wait, which is unprecedented. It's not a supply chain issue. It's a labor issue down in Ohio. They just do not have enough people. We have to jump in the queue. So if authorized in this budget, we were going to put it in a 25 budget. If we can order it in December, after obviously bringing it to a board meeting, it would probably arrive somewhere December 2026 or possibly even into 2027. So that's why we kind of wanted to get in and get it ordered. Number one, it locks the price down and also it gets us in the queue. Again, not the supply chain, more of a labor issue. Our final lease payment on Medic 81 is in 2025, and we're continuing with the Fire and EMS Apparatus Reserve Fund, which I requested if we could increase it. Normally, we put $125,000 a year away for a fire engine. With the price of our last engine, which was just over $700,000, with the EPA changes to the engine and the new engine configuration, they said that if we were to buy that same engine just today, it would be over $1 million. And we don't have a fancy engine. So we were looking to 7 years down the road when we go to buy our next new engine, if we can start putting the money away where we don't have to look for it. So obviously that's up to you guys, the village manager and finance. But currently our 3 engines are spaced 4 years apart. What I presented to the village manager is if we can get back on track to spacing them out a little bit more. And what I mean by that is if maybe the next one we buy a little bit sooner, and then the next one 2 years sooner than that, and then we're back on track where it's every 7 years we're buying an engine and we're keeping them for 21 years. So we'll see if that plays out. Obviously with equipment, we buy little by little. We buy our fire hose little at a time. So what happens is we're not buying it all at one time, and then all of a sudden 10 years when it all expires, we have to buy all new stuff. I like to space things out and plan for it ahead of time. The ongoing bathroom shower project, which was authorized in last year's budget. This is hopefully at the end, and it's going to start soon. But I got to tell you, I appreciate Brian Roche so much for having patience with me, for changing my mind, for you guys giving me the second deputy chief, me going back, asking the manager, can we get his office for the second deputy chief? Because currently they're both sharing an office right now. Fortunately, they get along really well, which is a good thing. But he said, yes, we can do this. We'll fit it in the price. The shower remodel came a little bit under budget, so there is money there to do that. I kind of feel bad because it's, we're ready to start, and then, wait, with this. But one thing that took so long that is a lesson to me is, and to do it the right way, is the fire stations were not built for a full-time fire department. There's really no bunk room. There's really only one shower inside. So what we needed to do, and the village manager let us do a space assessment, or Kluber do a space assessment of the entire fire stations. And how I explain this to people is, well, the reason is we need the showers and bathrooms now. But if we were to go ahead and build them, and then all of a sudden, 5 years down the road, you know what, we really do need to put an addition on the station. We just have to tear down those brand new bathrooms that we just built. we want to plan this out, and that's why it's taken so long. So hopefully soon they'll start. One caveat to that is, where do we go when the construction's being done? Because we're going to have to move out of the station. So we have plans A through Z. It looks like one of the best options would possibly be to temporarily move into the Iowa Community Center and have that as a temporary fire station while we have to move out of the Southside Fire Station. And then when that is done, then the Station 82, those guys will move into there also. So that's in the works right now. There's a lot of moving parts. We talked about renting a trailer, putting it outside. The issue is not staffing the staff like at a hotel. We can't really leave the rigs outside. Number one, they'll get stolen, or you can't leave them out in the weather. They have to be in temperature controlled environments. There's medications on there, there's expensive equipment, and the rigs itself, we can't leave them running 24/7. So that's all in the works. With that, Station 81, we have to add the HVAC repairs. All the ductwork needs to be replaced. And then we're continuing on with the key fob system at Station 82 next year to match Station 81. And the second half of the AED purchase for the village facilities and police vehicles. And then future considerations, obviously the ongoing fire station renovations, the possible relocation to the Iowa Community Center, and like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. And then something we need to think about in 26 is the replacement of 2 of our cardiac monitors. The Medic 80 replacement, if we order it now, it's 2.5 years, and then continue with the vehicle lease program that the village offers. Any questions?
Trustee Kumar.
A couple of things, and this kind of both for you guys and the police department, because it looks like DUCOM is a huge amount of your budget and keeps going up. Are there any viable substitutes for that, or there's just DUCOM pretty much out there?
Okay, there's, I think 7-8 years ago, they passed a law where they combined all the PSAPs, which is our public service answering points. So we have DUCOM or ACDC. But the 7-8 years ago when we signed on to this, we locked in with DUCOM, meaning we have to pay whether we leave DUCOM or not. So some of the costs that went up are, there's a facility fee and then the dispatching fee based on, with fire, there's equalized assessed value, our call volume. I think police officers, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the amount of patrol officers they have. So I hope that answers your question, but I don't think there is a viable option to leave.
No, I just was wondering, so now we're 7 years into the contracting. Well, when there's only one option, the contracting and a long-term contract always makes sense. So are we in a long-term contract?
We actually, at DUCOM, it's not a contract. We own DUCOM. We sit on the board of directors of DUCOM. Every municipality has a voice. I am actually the representative for the village president that sits on the board of directors board at DUCOM. So we actually are own DUCOM.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of a,
Yeah, it's not a
Cooperative.
contract, correct.
it's a cooperative, okay. It's not a contractual agreement, okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Chief, you're talking about going into Iowa Community Center possibly. You concerned about having then both stations on the north side of the tracks? Is that one of your?
Yes, it absolutely is a concern, but there is really no other option. The trailer down south has its pluses and minuses. We kind of looked at everything. The call volume is split north side, south side, but with the tear down of the old Cherokee Rose building coming up soon, there is nothing on the south side. unless maybe we can use the new or the new community center, but I don't think that's going to happen. So
Greg
that's why we were
Sagan
looking
said
at the ICC. Yeah, he says absolutely not. But unless anyone lives on the south side and want to host, some firemen, we'll do a lot of work around the house and everything to help you out. But yeah, that's the thing. Because down at Station 81, don't forget it's the HVAC that has to be replaced because of the mold. The station remodeling with the bathrooms, the office, and then the bay floor needs to be repaired. All of those troughs have to be cut up and redone. So it's best if we just completely move out of there.
Yeah, Trustee Kumar.
What is the time frame that's given by, for construction?
We've just been dealing with the architect and getting all of the bid documents and everything. That's going to be up to the general contractor to see how long it's going to take. I estimate 6 to 8 months. So with that, add 3, maybe a year. And then if it's less, bonus.
But Iowa Community Center, I assume, has to be retrofitted in some way.
So what we were looking at with the Iowa Community Center is we did a walkthrough. So the current configuration is the gymnasium itself to put 2 garage doors in right there on the east side. They have a kitchen. The classrooms can serve as a day room, bedrooms. The bathrooms, they can put a shower in one of them for a temporary shower. And the best part is if the village still wants to utilize that building in the future for any other temporary headquarters, say if they had a remodel Public Works or the police department or Village Hall, maybe that's an option because they do have office space there too where the fire department administration can come and stay. So again, it's still in the planning phases. It's not a definite. There is a lot of moving parts. We're still looking at different options. And if you would like to host us, that's still open too, if you live on the south side. But I hope that answers your question. Yes, it is a concern, but we also are fortunate enough to be surrounded in the Chicago metro area with a lot of fire departments, and that's why we have mutual aid.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Trustee Kerr.
Fire department went up in Sycamore not super long ago. That was about $10-11 million. What is the around cost for a new fire department? That's first part of my question. Second part of my question: what is
I like it.
usable life for 81? Like, I mean, it sounds like it's busting at the seams.
Well, that's why Kluber did the functional. Mark, correct me. What is the term? The safety analysis, and then where they looked at the bones of the building. Yes, and it's actually a strong build. It's actually a strong building. It's just small. There's no way to expand at all. Like I said, if you guys ever walk through, the bunk room is a part office. Was never designed as a fire station. Most fire stations, 50-year life, possibly. One of the studies in Kluber was the single fire station in the center of town.
Right. Yeah.
And it came in just around $9 million. And that would put all of us into one station.
And there's grants available for that, right?
There are some grants out there, yes. If you'd like, could we add that to the budget?
A little $9 million.
Sorry. You know. Next year, okay. No, but that's a great question. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Chief, thanks.
Thank you very much.
I think one of the things to look at is what can we do to get them, in terms of the space that we have inside the square footage, the square mileage inside of Villa Park could be served with a single fire station if we could find a location and we had an answer to the not having a crossing over the Union Pacific Rail. With that, it would actually make it much easier to run 2 stations properly. We really need somewhere closer to 30 firefighters, which is a huge expense, added expense. But But if we could get somehow down to one fire station with the staff we have, or, maybe even slightly less, that we could operate, and it would be a much better work environment where everyone isn't having to be on the ambulance every day. So that's a long-term goal, is to get to one fire station. But to do that safely, we do have to find that solution. That was it.
All right, so we will kind of jump right into administrative, finance, and public affairs. So this basically covers the village manager's office and the finance department. Public affairs covers primarily the elected officials, so your salaries, any sort of education, travel, our legal services, general village membership dues like the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, IML, those sort of things. The manager's office is obviously the village manager, myself, our IT manager, our newest, Patty Ruiz, who is our HR and payroll analyst, and our communications staff. And then in finance, we have obviously the director. We currently have an opening for the finance supervisor, and we're sort of looking ahead to how we're going to handle that position. Utility billing specialist, our accounts payable specialist, and then our accountant. So we primarily handle within our departments all of like internal services and things of that nature. So our budget is relatively small compared to all of the departments, and the biggest things that you'll see are related to personnel costs. For the most part, there's no significant increases outside of sort of salaries and benefits. The biggest things we want to do next year is really boost our employee appreciation activities. So about a year ago, we started our employee appreciation work group. That's made up of members from all different departments. That's really dedicated to, again, building employee morale, and kind of identifying different opportunities for us to celebrate our employees and the work that we do. And then we'll have our commissioner appreciation reception again, as we did. We got really good feedback last year from that, and so we look forward to honoring our volunteer commissioners again this year. So other than that, that's a pretty minimal in terms of the overall budget. Most of the commissions, outside of a few, asked for some minimal increases, nothing major, but just to kind of, manage their different activities. So the Fund Commission obviously has really done a great job with their events, and so some small increases to kind of help support those as they continue to grow. Fire and Police Commission kind of has increased costs related to their recruitment and applicant testing, and then a few small for like Senior Concerns Commission, I think the Environmental Concerns Commission, so nothing major there, but all, within the scope of their activities. Other things to note, agreements with Haggerty Buick, GMC, and Bone Roofing expired in 2024, so we have some various agreements that fall within the village manager's office that kind of related to the development activities that have gone on for several years. So those were two big ones that dropped off this year, and so that will free up some funding for us to utilize elsewhere in 2025. We did increase some funding for Love Your Neighbor Day. That's a wonderful event that we, look forward to growing our support in. And then we're also really focusing on our website and ways that we can improve that. So we know that our website, it's sort of a maze of different pages, and it's a lot of work to continue to stay on top of, but also make the needed updates that we want. And so part of what we're going to do next year is contract with Civic, which is our website provider, that can provide Riley some additional support, so we can kind of provide them a list of things that we want done on a monthly basis, And so we're just going to contract with them for a few hours a month to kind of get some of those things like redoing the community development page, a lot of stuff with the recreation center we really want to highlight and keep on top of. And then just really getting rid of a lot of the old information that's out there. So that's a big priority for us within our communications office over the next year. For information technology, he's just continuing to do, every IT-related thing. I think Brian touches all of the different departments. Our IT costs have skyrocketed over the last few years because of so many things that require software in order to make us efficient and effective. And so we've consolidated a lot of those costs within his budget, and so you'll see that continue to increase as we move those from other department budgets into his, but also as we kind of increase our general software over the next few years. Big things next year is we're replacing all of our village wireless network devices, and so those will be a big ticket item, as well as our network switches. So they will be end of life, and so those will be replaced next year. Big things that we've added this year, as we've mentioned before, GoGov will have our final BS&A payment in 2025. We implemented time and attendance software, and then the fire department implemented the first arriving EMS software as well. So you'll see those on the upcoming budget. Few things that we wanted to point out for personnel costs. Our benefits, so our initial renewal rate was a 20% increase for major medical. So that's the highest that it's been since I've been here. We think we have options to get it down to about a 6% increase, but unfortunately, we're seeing higher and higher renewals each year. And, it depends on a number of factors. So we're sort of continuing to plan for those increased costs, on an annual basis. We do know that our preliminary renewal rate for IRMA is going up about $185,000. That is related to our a number of factors. Our claims experience over the last 5 years, their reinsurance rates have gone up significantly, and then just a few other things that kind of contribute to that uptick. So we're hoping to kind of look for ways to keep that down, but right now we're looking at that increase for the coming year. And then we always like to point out when we talk about staffing, our pensions and our long-term obligations to our employees is, one of the big things that drives our personnel decisions and our costs. And so just kind of understanding how the village funds those. If you are not a sworn police and fire personnel, then you are in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund if you work more than 1,000 hours a year. So employees contribute to that. They contribute 4.5% of their earnings, whereas the village contributes, a fluctuating rate. For 2025, we're looking at a 7.41% of their annual earnings is what the village will contribute. For them. And that can fluctuate on a number of things depending on, what's going on. If we have an early retirement incentive, if we, it includes short and long-term disability for our employees, life insurance benefits all fall within IMRF that go into that 7.41%. For fire and police, it's based on what Director Howard mentioned earlier, our obligation to fund the pensions by 2040. And so in 2022, and I didn't have the updated 2023 numbers, for fire, we paid about 48.99% of covered payroll. So you figured there, in one individual's salary, we're paying about 48% of that towards retirement, towards the pension, and that's to cover the people who, are coming up, our obligations that are out there. We always have to think ahead to our obligations for the employees that we have now that will be retiring in the future. And then for police, that number was about 62.35%. Employees contribute to that as well. I think police is about 9%. What does the fire contribute? Is it almost 10%? Yeah. So they contribute to that as well. So just as a kind of understanding when we talk about personnel costs, what kind of we're looking at. Many of the departments have already talked about their requests, but just so you understand when we're going ahead over the next few and as we look ahead to the budget process as a whole, quite a number of requests this year across all of the departments. Technically, fire, we already brought him on board, but it will be new for the 2025 budget. Obviously, the Parks and Recreation will have the rec center, and so we're continually looking to evaluate those needs. And then, the police department talked about their patrol officer, and then Public Works will talk about some of the needs for their department. So kind of keep that in mind as we move forward, and then as we look across the other departments. So that is it. If you have any questions,
Thanks,
happy
Susan.
to answer those.
Any questions? Mr. Kumar?
You talk about Riley putting things on, and she's done a fabulous job with social media, so on and so forth, and I see a lot of it. I'm still looking for the strategic plan to come on somewhere, and I don't know where it's being posted, but I think also a graphic with that's simple for people, just basically the goals that, Matt talked about, how far along we are on those goals. Some kind of little graphic would be essential, I think, to put somewhere online, just so people know that's what we're aligning everything to. So I don't know if you're gonna go back to Corey to get that, or if you're gonna do it yourself, and whatever you wanna do, I think we need to address that within manager's department per se.
We're going to start.
That one works. Yep.
We're going to start with trying to do it internally, because a number of the initiatives are qualitative to be measured. There are a few that are quantitative, but there aren't a lot that are. It's something that where the data changes month by month.
And since it's qualitative, you just need a easy kind of way of measurement. It can be a little, like, thermometer that goes there, from here to here, 0 to 1. It can be a red light, green light thing. Anything that says we got there, we didn't, it doesn't matter. And then you pull it out. So it's not that hard to, it can be multiple things that are out there already that people use all the time. but-
Right. And right now we're in it's taking longer than I'd like, but we're getting all of the initiatives into a Gantt chart so we can keep track of that. Then we can get it to the website quickly, but we've got to get the information.
Yeah, because though we also need the strategic whole plan, nobody is going to sit and really read that carefully. If you have a single graphic, I think all the residents would be easier to access that and say, Villa Park is doing what it should be, it's on its track, and it's something we could point to as trustees.
Right.
Yeah.
Agree. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thanks, Suzanne.
Good evening, everyone.
I need to do better segues and vamps in between.
Like music or something?
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but we're recreation centers.
Great.
So, and we're very excited about that, and we're excited about all the opportunities that the rec center will provide us to do more programming and offer a wider range of activities for our residents. On the recreation, we have two divisions: the recreation division and the parks division. And actually, Assistant Director Racanelli is here, as well as Park Superintendent Roche. If you have any specific questions.
Can you just zoom it a little bit?
Can I move it?
Zoom.
Oh, Zoom? Yeah, sure. I'm technically challenged. Okay. Well, our organizational chart will be on in the budget book, but for the recreation division, we do have. Well, that's good. Thank you. We do have two full-time receptionists in the recreation division. We have four full-time recreation staff, and Suzanne mentioned the request in 2025 to add one more staff member. We also have 14 part-time staff, and that includes part-time front desk staff, usually college, some high school and college students manning the front, and 9 preschool and early childhood, nine staff of preschool and early childhood instructors, excuse me. And then for seasonal staff, which are soccer refs, basketball, volleyball refs, lifeguards, we have anywhere from 75 to 100 seasonal staff. So for our 2024 achievements, we have offered over 1,100 programs annually. That number will go up and will increase as we move into the recreation center and establish more contacts with different programs and different instructors. We had just under 700 memberships for the Jefferson Pool and the fitness area this year, fitness area being aerobics. 1,200 households register for programs and memberships. We offer 40 special and seasonal events, and about a little over 5,000 people attend those events. The Jefferson Pool season is basically 80 days in the summertime, and the average usually is 68 swimmable days. And swimmable days are the days that are sunny and warm. The non-swimmable days are the days that are rainy or under 70 degrees. So we count the swimmable days, kind of what the golf course does is playable days for the course. So we kind of use that mode for the pool season. We had just under 15,000 in attendance at the pool this year. We had a nice warm summer. Of course, it's all dependent on the weather. The Mariners swim team, we usually average 100 swimmers annually, and it's a very strong program. There's a few, we belong to the DuPage Swim and Dive Conference, and right now it's A and B, and I think they want to even move to a C conference as well, and bring in a couple more teams from outside DuPage, actually. We have the Learn to Swim program. We have 166 people average annually that register for those classes. Our rec supervisor, aquatic supervisor, Sue Earl, trained to be an instructor, certified instructor, so she can certify, take the lifeguards through the paces and certify them. We used to go out through Red Cross or different certification groups to certify our instructors. So now we do that in-house, which is a lot better control, and Sue does a wonderful job with certifying our lifeguards. Again, as I mentioned, with seasonal staff, 75 to 100 seasonal staff, and 55 of those are from the pool, lifeguards, ambassadors, front desk staff. And then for Constant Contact, that's one of our marketing tools. We're trying to increase our participants. This year we added 76 new participants. So we have just under 5,000 contacts for Constant Contact, and what we do is always send out informational blurbs, what's coming up, special events, sign up for a new session of karate, those type of things. So we use that as a reminder. And then we're also want to increase all of our family special events. So this year we brought back the mother and son night and the daddy-daughter dance, and we're doing a golden egg hunt for the spring session this year. And again, and this will tie in with the rec center. So we started an adult pickleball program at Jackson Middle School. We will have pickleball courts at the rec center. So we'll increase that programming. If we need to use the middle schools, we're still reliant on them for programming, basketball practices and that type of thing. We use Willowbrook High School for games. So we're still a little bit reliant on the schools, and we appreciate them working with us, but we will also have the kids playing over at the rec center as well. we've worked with several community groups, DUCAP, the Villa Park Library, the DuPage Sheriff's Department. I won't read through all these, but we reach out and try to work with other community organizations to increase our programming. And it's been wonderful to work with those groups and have the ability to offer new programs. Let's see, we restructured our fitness, chair fitness program. So this is some of the things that we're going to be able to do at the rec center is offer more fitness specific classes. We work with the local communities on sponsorships. The senior program has just been booming. We have a lot of senior programs, so we're working with Villa Park OSCO. We offered one of the sponsors did a new barbecue and bingo, and as a start for 25 participants, that's a wonderful start, and we look forward to those programs growing as well. And of course, we always look at some salary saving or cost saving measures, and one of the things is trying to secure more volunteers for our events, so we're not reliant on part-time staff. So we're trying to recruit more volunteers, and we have a wonderful volunteer group that helps on all our special events. So for our upcoming budget impact items for 2025, for the aquatic program, again, mentioned about the American Red Cross certification. What we've done to attract and keep our lifeguards is to cover the cost of their certifications. That helps tremendously. It's a good way to keep our lifeguards. I forget what the cost was for certification, but it was pricey. Gina, do you remember the cost of certification?
The brand new staff would pay typically $300. New lifeguards would pay, okay, $300 and $150 if they're going to stay.
Returning.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty costly thing for teenagers, and so we'd like to help them out because we want to retain them, and they do a wonderful job for us, and it's a vitally important, life-saving, and they're one of the best staffs around. So we think it's well worth the cost to cover the cost of those certifications and recertifications. We want to buy a digital time clock, and that's for the swim team. And then, of course, some swim fins as well. So we try to, every few years, add some new items to the swim team. For the new fitness area, we have a stretching area. We want to get some TRX bands, some stretch bars, more fitness mats. We want to do for the group fitness area some smaller hand weights. We'll have hand weights in the big fitness area, but for our fitness room, dance room, we'll have some smaller hand weights, and we'll also have those as well for the stretching area, and kettlebells as well, kettlebells. And then of course with the new gym, we're going to need some more equipment, the volleyball courts to hold the standards. I think we needed to purchase at least one new standard, probably two. We need the new pickleball nets, and then just some storage containers and those type of things to store all the needed equipment that we're going to have. No. Thanks, Suzanne. It's freezing? Oh. Well. And again, well, Suzanne's working, and I appreciate your help, Suzanne. Some of the events, the impact items for events for 2025 is we want to buy a new movie screen for our movies in the park. We'll we have to purchase a license agreement to show movies, copyrighted movies, and we also work with the library for showing movies. We're buying new membership passes. It'll include the new Parks and Rec logo, and those will be the fobs that you scan. We have to increase, since the rec center will be open longer than the Iowa Community Center, we're open on the weekends. We're only open till 1 p.m. on Saturdays over at the Iowa Community Center. So the new rec center will be open until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and we'll also be open on Sundays, which we don't normally open at the Iowa Community Center on Sundays. And we'll also be open on early, 5:36 a.m. At the rec center, so we have to staff that. And we also will cover the front with full-time staff as well. We have to purchase some new furniture for the classrooms. We want to do that multifunctional, so if we can, use tables that we'll be able to use for adults, and we'll also be able to use for preschool age children. So we don't have to double up and purchase more equipment. We can use the same type of equipment for the different age groups. We also need little cubbies for the preschool classrooms. And then, as Suzanne had mentioned, we're looking to we're looking to add a full-time program supervisor. We need a facility manager, which we would like to promote one of our staff members to be the facility manager. And then the full-time program supervisor would also take over some of the responsibilities that the facility manager had. And of course, as I mentioned, part-time front desk staffing. We'll have extra hours at the rec center, so we'll need to cover those with part-time staff. Parks, Buildings, and Grounds, and this is Brian's area, and most of the, or a few of the other department heads have already mentioned that Brian works closely with the other departments. His group has a lot of stuff to do. There's always things that are happening at each facility, and we try as best we can to remedy situations like no heat. Public Works, we just got them heat, so right before the cold season comes in, it was a little chilly for them, and it's all dependent on our staff is ready to go. It's all dependent on what breaks and what we need to replace and how soon we can get to those things. But anyway, the Parks Department maintains 125 total acres, 100 acres at 15 park sites, and that includes the Prairie Path and the Great Western Trail. And then 25 acres at other village spaces, Village Hall, the pumping stations, well houses, dead ends, right-of-ways, and North Avenue median, to mention a few. We do have 4 playgrounds and 4 village baseball and softball fields. And we also work with, now it's with the Villa Park Youth Baseball Association to maintain the 6 school district baseball, softball fields. We do maintain 35 facilities throughout the village, and of course the rec centers, administrative buildings, maintenance, police and fire, the pressure stations, and as I mentioned before, the well houses, and the metro station as well, and the salt storage facility in North Terrace Park. The Parks Division staff includes 8 full-time folks, 10 seasonal, 3 full-time custodial, and 1 part-time custodial. So our 2024 project recap, of course at Lions, we're working on completing the construction of the rec center. So Brian has been instrumental in helping WB Olson with whatever they need. Brian's the first guy they would call. Lufkin Park, of course, we completed that OSLAD grant this year. It's been, actually, we're probably going to be closing the spray pad this week because the weather's turning. So end of October, it's a nice thing to have that ability to have some water feature. But we will be closing that at the end of this week. And we also will make sure that the public is notified through the website and some signage over at the park. The PD, we're completing the elevator modernization, and we had the main sewer line replaced, the new flooring installed on the main level, and the main level interior. There were some improvements done as well. Chief Stapleton talked about the fire department, what we're doing there, the interior restroom renovation, working on Station 82 to complete the boiler and AC replacements by the end of this year. And we completed Station 81 office and day room improvements. Public Works will replace the north and south doors at the facility. I know the employee entry wasn't secure, and some folks, general public, would walk into that door, so we replaced that door. We improved the public lobby and office areas, and installed new LED lighting there, and also within the maintenance garage. The Jefferson pool improvements, we're installing the new pool liner this year. Actually, this week is happening, and it'll probably be done by the end of next week. We did gel coat the water slide and the tower stairs. We installed a new acid feed system, installed new chemistry controllers, and a new main filter pump. In Village Hall, a while back, we renovated the downstairs basement break room. Of course, we finally got the new flagpole installed, and we have to continue to do some window repairs. And for the Nezra Northeast DuPage Special Rec, we usually do the playground surfacing throughout the village and all the playgrounds, which is certified mulch. And we're changing up. We have the Iowa Community Center and Lovekin Park have the AstroTurf, and over at the Rec Center, we will have a poured-in-place surface, which is kind of a rubberized surface. We're trying to get away from the mulch. And then for our upcoming projects for 2025, again, we want to complete moving in and begin operations at the new rec center. Hopefully we can get started on the Lions Park Osled improvement project this year. It's getting late in the year. We might be able to pour some sidewalks and do some footings for the pergola. Most of the renovations will take place next year. That includes pickleball and basketball courts, the new playground, the story walk, and a senior area with game tables and an open-air shelter. Village Hall, we have to do, again, as PD, the elevator modernization. We have to do some plumbing improvements and electrical improvements as well. And Chief Rivas talked about installing the fencing around parking. The parking is open to the general public. They shouldn't be walking back there by the squad cars. We've talked about that for a year or so now, right, Chief? And so we really want to get that done so that it's a secure area for PD. Yep.
Just a real quick interruption. That one. It's proving to be a little bit more difficult because we don't own all the land that our parking lot sits on. Part of it's the county, so we're trying to arrange for a land swap because we have enough land that is not in the parking lot that belongs to us, so that we can't build a fence on their property. It becomes a problem, so we're trying to work out that. We've talked to the county. They're cooperative with the idea, but we have to get that done, and there's some paperwork that has to take place. So.
It's definitely needed, though. It's amazing that it's open to the public, so we really want to get that done. The fire stations as well, we talked about a little bit, and Chief Stapleton talked about the renovations happening over there. We've got HVAC improvements going on, the garage bay flooring improvements, and new fencing at Station 82. And then Chief Stapleton also talked about the possibility of moving into the Iowa Community Center, which we think will be a win-win, because down the road, and one of the last bullet points is the demolition of Iowa, which will probably be postponed if the fire department moves over there. And then a future idea for that area is, if we demolish a building, we'd still like to keep the gym is going to become your bay for the engines, And so we'd like to keep the gym and use that as storage facility down the road for a lot of parks stuff. We're at Cherokee Rose, we have a lot of vehicles over there. We're just always in need of storage. So one of the ideas was, once fire department renovations are all done, we can use that area as storage for the parks department. And we'd also like to probably, if most of the building is going to be demolished and we keep that, we'd like to do some outdoor or outdoor access to restrooms for the folks that use that area. And oops, I think that's it. Any questions? We'd be happy to answer.
Questions or comments? Trustee Kumar.
I see a lot of the things we're doing, but the revenue side, I'm kind of confused as to how that's gonna match up. It's part of the budget, obviously. There's not much discussion here about, pricing and revenues. I see 2,000 fobs. Is that an estimate that you came up with, Lombard and local areas in terms of the percentage of the population that uses a community center?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So we use Lombard as a baseline. Their community center is roughly the same size as ours.
Yeah.
They're twice as big as us as far as population. So we got information from the director over there about their first year of operation and how many passes they sold. And so we basically, we said, well, if they're twice as big as us, maybe we'll sell half as many passes. So we went with a 50% pass sales, and we also went 75%. And so this year will be the baseline to see where we're at. But we use that for our initial revenues.
Revenues with because I think that's, you're hiring how many new people, staff? Because is it new staff or that's a total number of staff? Because it said new. Are we hiring 10 new part-time staff?
I'll let Gina answer that. And with the fobs, Trustee Kumar, those fobs are also going to be used for the pool as well.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So with regard to the staff, we're estimating 10 additional part-time staff to cover the hours that the building is open. We would like to be able to keep their schedules, under 15 hours a week if we can. And so in order to be able to cover all those hours, we would need more staff. So only one full-time.
One full-time. And the 2,000 fobs, I'm assuming you're not using all 2,000 of them is your thing. You're thinking that how many will enroll?
Yeah, well, the estimates right now, I believe, are to sell about 1,300 passes, weight room passes, memberships. We can also always order more if we sell more. Same with the, if we sell a lot the first 3 months or 4 months, if we need more for the pool, we'll certainly.
Yeah, I know you can order. I'm just thinking, if you're ordering 2,000, there's a reason you're ordering 2,000.
Yeah, we figured.
So you expect 1,300 memberships?
Yes. If I could pull out my.
And you said that that's kind of about half of what Lombard got?
Right. Lombard, basically, their first year, they sold 2,600
Okay, so half.
passes.
Which,
And then it increased every year after that, until COVID hit, and they went down, but.
COVID is not.
Right.
up
I'm just saying,
anyway,
their
people
first year was
come
26.
back, okay.
So if we do 50%, we'll sell 1,300. If we do
1,300,
75,
yeah. And we're hoping,
16.
because we're budgeting, it's a new thing, we don't have it, and so you want to kind of not overestimate, underestimate, kind of figure out where it comes from, that's all. I'm just trying to see where the numbers are coming from.
In terms of staffing, just one thing. One of the things we do want to do is bring on the one custodial full-time fairly soon so that they can get trained with the HVAC and all the other, all the features of the new building, and then the programming staff add not quite as quickly, and we're still reviewing the creation of some of these jobs, and although well documented and by the Parks and Recreation staff, as you are pointing out, we need to make sure that there's revenue to cover it, because this is going to be here for a long time, and we want to make sure that we adequately staff it to begin with, but that we don't put ourselves in a financial bind by having expenses that are beyond our revenues. Our goal is to get close to covering most of the new expenses. We don't cover our costs in Iowa. We never have tried to. So it's something we're trying to balance those costs out. So, but custodial staff will move from Iowa Center. There was never revenue to cover them. But as we go through the first year, we'd like to come back with a pretty very tight number on what our costs versus our expenses, so we can come and make a policy as to where we're going to try and how much cost recovery we hope to get out of the recreation center. And what's a recreation cost? The administrative offices will be in that building too. Do we count part of Greg's salary towards the operation of the recreation center? I don't know if that's fair, because that's a lot of drag on the operation of the rec center. So a lot of things to consider. Thanks.
I have a question for Gina.
Yeah, go ahead.
The preschool, I mean, we have a new, I mean, preschool is a big thing to me. How is our preschool doing right now? Is a question I have, because we have the new Jefferson Jackson has a new early childhood center. Salt Creek already has a running preschool. So how is our preschool doing? Are we using that to capacity at this point, or what's going on with the preschool?
So we did add 2 new preschool classes, a 2-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. One of those went last year. This year, both of those new ones are going. So, and we did that because we were not maxed out capacity-wise for 3 and 4-year-olds. So to answer your question, we are not at capacity, but we're doing much better this year than we did last year. And all 4 classes are going, and all of those costs are being covered.
Because I'm assuming they're moving to the preschool room in the new, and do you anticipate the same, because you're changing geographic location, do you anticipate the same usage in the new geographic location?
At least. I actually anticipate the number to get bigger. Mm-hmm.
Josephine.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to the Red Cross certification training. I've just always been curious, is that something that is done in-house? Is Sue the one who is training?
Yeah, so the American Red Cross is the certifying body for our lifeguards. So we would either need to contractually find somebody that would come in and do that. And over the course of the years, we've been pretty fortunate having, at least somebody on staff, even if it was just one person. But Sue is an instructor, and so she can train the lifeguards. She also trains the Learn to Swim instructors as well. So we have more WSIs, water safety instructors, on staff now than we've ever had, because we've never had an instructor on staff for swim lessons as well.
Thank you. And then I had one more question about the cubbies. Are they built in?
No.
Not part of so they wouldn't be part of the.
No, they're not built in.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Kumar.
Then I come into the pool, because the pool has always been a kind of an issue with Villa Park residents. It's, we're putting in a liner that gives us about 10 years. There is also a concern, that's 10 years. What do we do along the lines? A pool is not cheap, it's expensive. And we do need a pool at the end of those 10 years. And this is way past its life also. We're just kind of extending it. It's like a Band-Aid on a gaping wound at this point that we're just putting on because, well, we don't have money. We just built a community center. I get that. There are, like, we have certain sources of revenue that we were filtering, I believe, to Parks and Rec. And ideally, it would have gone, like, from the cannabis tax to the pool is what would have been ideal. But due to some constraints with the community center, I think we had to transfer some of that, or all of it, to finishing up the community center at this point, and we'll have to kind of start from square one again. This is more a question for Chuck about how we're addressing the line item for that in the future, because right now it's under Parks and Rec, and ideally we should, in our budget, have a line for pool fund for the future, just so we see some collection towards a pool fund. And I know probably we're not going to get to the total of the cost of a pool, but I think we need to start filtering some revenue sources clearly to that major project in the long run, just like we anticipate pensions coming up and other things coming up. That, from a parks point of view, is coming up in 10 years, and we know that. So we need to start kind of thinking about that, just like we have our building plans and so on and so forth. I think this is a huge resident concern. It's come to me from multiple residents that they are concerned about the status of the pool, the age of the pool. The swim team is always concerned that they don't have enough time to swim in the pool. I know the swim team coaches would love an indoor pool, but I'm not sure how we're going to materialize that for sure. And so that there's a lot of issues, and I think Parks and Rec should definitely at least have a line item to start, siphoning a little bit of money towards that. I think it's going to come to somewhat EDC funds a little bit that siphon into that, in some way. If we have cannabis tax going in there, I could think of our gambling revenues taking 1% or something and putting it towards that. Some percentage should go towards pool future fixing, renovation, whatever we need towards a pool.
One of the things we have, and one of the things that the manager and I talked about, is we're going to a new ERP system that gives us a lot more flexibility as far as accounting and reporting. And one of the things we can do is set up some way to, for wherever the source is going to be, if we're going to fund something in that manner, then we'll have a better opportunity and better way of tracking it through project costs to begin this process, because as what you said, and I'm sure the sentiment is, that's going to have to be addressed. So we have better tools coming forward to do that at wherever the sourcing arrives.
Yeah, I think even our cannabis tax that's coming in, there's not like a clear reporting necessarily in the way that we need for that. We see the line item for fire and police pension, but there isn't for this. It kind of feeds into a major budget. I think people want to see that be demarked and clarified within the budget, and there's a really large group of people who want to see this, so we really need to get to this aspect quickly in terms of the pool. I know sports are a really big thing in Willowbrook. We have got a great swim team. They've done really well. So as they do well, obviously parents are concerned. I learned swimming at Jefferson Pool, so it's something that it's where I learned swimming, so I have a passion and I love that pool, irrespective of its state right now, because that's where I learned swimming, and I'll never forget those days as a child. So that being said, we need to have a plan going forth.
I could a couple notes just to make sure that everyone understands that there is a cannabis to tax to parks line item 36400026.
At this point, it's kind of just goes to parks, and that's kind of my problem there. And it initially it was set up that way, but the people who even set it up have been clear in contacting me and saying that their intention was that it goes towards a pool. And it's good to keep things general, I know, because sometimes it comes needed, and we needed to fix the community center. But that's something that can always be switched by a vote by the board if it comes to that. I feel like it's a good idea to put things in the box they're going. They should go in. This comes from the fact that there's a couple of things we did at Salt Creek District 48 at one point in what we call large capital projects that we saved for. And a lot of the times, even if you have a 501c3 that wants to feed into a particular project, it's easier if there's a line item towards that. So I don't know what the possibilities are, but it's, something that in the future that if we need to collect for in different ways, it will allow for that.
But, and then to finish my thought, I think that what we're doing at the pool is not so much putting a Band-Aid over a gaping wound as reconstructing a knee or a hip or something like that, and giving us a number of years of utility left. But the project that you're talking about is going to cost in the millions. So it's going to take a great deal of discipline and a lot of no's to other things to put away, $100,000, $500,000, $1 million a year to have enough money to do a serious effort at a pool in 10 years. I think one of the things we also need to keep in mind is the potential for partnerships in building a pool with other organizations. So keep that in mind as the possibility that we could get some more out of with
Yeah,
some
but even for a partnership, right, we need to have something to put towards the partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that money is not gonna come, if we put zero, then there's no partnership happening. So I'm not suggesting that we save $500,000 a year and hope for, all of the money for the pool and it's gonna happen. It's just, not feasible in our budget, but whatever, we feel is the max we can put in, we should be, and it shouldn't be zero. So whatever the tax base that we are increasing in some way, a percentage is a good way to do it. That way, it goes towards this fund. It's not something, this is all we collected, that this is all we collected.
Okay. Anyone else? Trustee Alfano.
So I do agree with Trustee Kumar, and mostly because this is the conversation we had a year ago. And it's a conversation that we've had even before I was on the board. And it's a conversation where when you're talking about a budget, it's telling our residents what we are prioritizing. And our residents have been saying over and over and over that this is something that they want prioritized. I understand that we are not going to put millions and millions of dollars away. But if we have that priority of a line item in the budget, then it is sending that message that it is on our radar and it is something that is a priority. And we are planning for that. Whether I wouldn't want to, what I would hate to see is what kind of happened with our Parks and Rec, right? So we get this grant and then we're kind of scrounging for how are we going to pay for this or how are we going to make up the difference? That's what I really don't want to be put in the position of. So I'd rather kind of plan ahead for that, should the need arise, rather than just kind of, oh gosh, we have this money, we might lose it, we have to figure out how we're going to do this, if that makes sense. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Finally, we get to some of the good stuff everybody likes. As you all know, Public Works, we kind of service all. We service both internal customers with all our departments and all of our citizens here in Villa Park. As an overview, here's our department. It's kind of hard to read because we've kind of grown this past year. Fleet had moved over from Parks and Rec over into Public Works, so we have now added Fleet into our department, which kind of makes it hard to get onto the big screen. But overall, we have 34 full-time employees right now. We go up to about 7 seasonals in the summertime, and that's across both streets, utilities, and fleet. And then up to 2 engineering interns. Interns are sometimes very competitive right now and hard to get, so we'd like to have 2, but if we can get 1 higher, that's also well. A lot of our stuff has been kind of talked about. So like our personnel requests, we are looking to add 1 additional mechanic. Our number of pieces of equipment has grown over the last 5 or 6 years. We're about up to about 150 vehicles, I think, 343 pieces of equipment. Our mechanics cover everything from small engines to diesel engines to fire trucks, everything in between. That's not something you learn in school, how to cover all those. And right now, we have 2 out of our 3, so 66% of our staff has over 30 years of experience coming into this upcoming fiscal year. So I know I have limited time to get a new employee up and running. And to be honest, mechanics, it's a very competitive market right now. There's not enough mechanics out there, so it may take some time to get a mechanic hired. So therefore, we're requesting that mechanic to get that process started so that maybe we have some time for them to apprentice under our existing mechanics to get up to speed. I can attest, talking to our fleet, the fire department, those ambulances, I mean, they're rolling computers plus pharmacy plus. That's not something you learn. Our police cars are getting more advanced with technology, a lot of wiring. A lot of that's done in-house currently right now, so that's why we're requesting that. Additionally, our utility department, that's our water wastewater department, we're starting to experience what fire has been experiencing, where we have 2 extremes of experience on our staffing levels. Just this month, our most senior, Tom Vinches, has 38 years of experience with the village. So upcoming this next year is 39. Again, that's limited time frame that we probably have with that knowledge. And then additionally, our foreman this month also has turned in over 30 years of experience. And our other foreman, street foreman, will have 29. So we have quite a bit of experience. Additionally, Public Works is a unique position. A lot of those guys, you can talk to them and they'll tell you that valve can only turn this much and we got to do this to this valve and that. And while we are trying to digitalize and modernize all that with GIS, putting that a lot into our GIS system, photos of motor main breaks, we can't always get that institutional knowledge transferred. And we have been, Suzanne has been assisting, coordinating with the union of trying to up our training program to be a little bit more consistent so that knowing that we have younger staff, make sure they're all getting trained the same and trained on that knowledge. And that's something we're implementing hopefully this upcoming year. And then we're also asking for additional street maintenance worker. I believe the manager referenced earlier tonight, 600 and some odd requests in GoGov. The majority of those are Public Works, and I would say almost 90% of the Public Works ones are tree related. So we do have a lot of need for a little bit extra pair of hands to try to maintain a lot of our infrastructure. And additionally, this is a new position that we're looking at. I kind of hinted that we've been trying to digitalize. We're trying to put everything into GIS, into our Esri account. We kind of upgrade our Esri 3 years ago to more of an enterprise to be more robust, bringing on new software that we've talked about with BSNA. There's some work order management in there. There's more ways that we can tie things to our assets in terms of electronically. You can have it on your computer, on your tablet. That's a lot of management of data. And so we'd like to have a GIS coordinator. And that's, I'm saying village-wide. It's not just Public Works. This position I envision will assist with community development. A lot of their zoning maps, a lot of their information is housed in GIS. To be able to manipulate that data and their need. Additionally, with buildings and grounds, with Brian, I know he had, I think, a seasonal or intern help bring up a lot of their information, so it's all being housed on the same server to kind of have one point of contact to kind of manage that and be able to enhance our utilization of that information and to spread it out to all our employees to be a lot more efficient. Just some highlights. Public Works is, I lost track, maybe 12 or 13 tabs in your budget sheets. So I'm just going over some highlights of the general fund, and then we'll get into the capital. The first one is our garbage fund. You all know, everyone knows we have a contract with LRS, which expires in 2028, and that contract's a 5% annual increase in their set fee. And that fee is for the solid waste curb collection, the CART program, and the recycling program. And then the free leaf pickup. Obviously, we have the free brush pickup here starting next week and for the next 7 weeks as we go into fall. Additionally, we have the electronic recycling every third Saturday of the month. And in this budget, you notice we also have some costs associated with the billing and the collection of billing through the online portal, which will all be incorporated into BSNA. So the overall budget just went up 5% because that's the contractual agreement that we have with LRS. Just, even though I'm a numbers guy, being an engineer, I kind of summarize a lot of our funds. As you notice, we do have a few that the proposed budget is rather large. That kind of ties back to our personnel requests. The remainder of the ones are relatively the same as last year. Just a little bit, we're seeing increases like everybody else in the cost of materials and services, so a lot of those costs have just gone up slightly. Obviously, fleet's gone up quite a bit for the personnel request, and then streets and forestry. So to kind of talk about streets and forestry, this year we planted 60 trees. That's with our internal. That doesn't include any of our capital projects. Our capital projects, we're going at least 1-to-1 replacement when we take out trees with them, if not more, if we can kind of do infill. And so we're going to try to stretch that to 70 trees next year with our crew. Talking with Jay Young, our streets foreman, we'd like to probably, we're going to create a form to be sent out before the beginning of the next year, asking for nominations for locations. If people would like a tree in their parkway, submit this form for a nomination for your parkway. We'll come out and evaluate it, and if it's suitable for a tree, we'll put it on the list. That way, we're kind of can better serve the residents that would like trees in their parkway and get those into those locations a little bit better. Additionally, the main probably complaint we receive the most is tree trimming. We do have the city or the village broken up into 5 zones. And what we've been doing the last 2 years is with our crews in the wintertime, hitting those zones, doing the trimming, but we don't do a full trim. What we do is try to remove all the dead wood, and then we raise the canopy up. So to try to get the vehicles so they don't get hit, clear branches going in front of stop signs, those sort of items. And then throughout the year, we try to get to requests as we can, prioritizing them based on the need as it relates to emergencies, obviously broken limbs, branches covering stop signs, yield signs, those sort of things are the highest priority. If we notice that it needs a trim, we'll put it on the list and get to it. The last time we've contractual tree trim was 2007. So we have not had an outside company come in and hit zones, so we did, or proposing in this budget $150,000 to help kind of get caught up, because we're kind of treading water and slowly sinking a little bit. I think we're doing a little bit better the last several years, but we can't catch up. So if we'd like to catch up, we'll probably need assistance.
And I just want to jump in real quick here. I was talking with Director Guerra about this just today, and this trying to guess how many trees we had, and I think we've got about 9,000 in our inventory, but our guess as to how many there are actually under the city's guidance, or the city's street tree program, or city street trees, is probably closer to 12 or 13,000 trees. So when you're talking about why does it take us 5 years to get through the entire village, that's why, because we're looking at thousands of trees every year, and we're trying to pick out the ones that need to be cut down, the ones that need to be trimmed, and then there's also emergency trimming when there's a hanging limb or there's a storm or all those other things. So that's our efforts to try and get to everybody's trees. That's the scope we're talking about.
Yes, thank you. Manager Harline. Additionally, the one new hire, talking with staff, what that could probably do for us is to make sure that we have a crew dedicated, at least 3 guys of a crew, to trimming or forestry each day. Right now, we can't always do that due to vacations, sick time, time off, plus additional other items that come up that may require assistance that we can't always do that, but we should be able to have a crew of 3 at least out every day. It won't be the same guys, but at least a crew of 3. Some other highlights, and kind of the general fund, is the streetlight fund. This year we've purchased 6 rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RFBs. 2 that look like the picture that's on the board that will be there for Monterey and the Illinois Prairie Path crossing. We just received those, so we're looking to install those in the upcoming weeks. We're trying to get some bids on to put the bases in for us. Then we have two that are a slightly lesser model in terms of we'll use a different base for the Great Western at Ardmore and Harvard. So with the upcoming budget, we'd like to increase the number again and add 2 more sets. And that would be for the Prairie Path at Harvard and Summit, which I believe would then cover every crossing across streets throughout the village of the Prairie Path. So we are looking at doing that so users of the Prairie Path and vehicle users have the same expectation no matter what street they're on as they come across the Prairie Path in the village. Additionally, we kind of touched on fleet and with the increase in numbers and to look at a little bit of succession planning. That's why those 2 budgets are slightly, those 3 budgets, I should say, are slightly bigger than last year's. Kind of our enterprise, our business funds, as Director Howard has pointed out, one of them is our stormwater fund. Our stormwater fund covers the fee that we collect from residents for the stormwater. Annually, we get about $581,000. I don't think we've increased that fee for several years, so that kind of stays the same. Grant funding that we're receiving this upcoming year, it kind of started this year and will extend into next year, is we still have a little bit of money left over from the $4 million FEMA grant that we received, and that was for the Jackson Pond expansion and then the Jackson area improvement. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the capital plan. Along with, we have $288,500 that we're receiving through a DCO grant that we just opened bids for. Additionally, we do offer a cost share for the residents. We do a 50-50 for drainage assistance, for backyard flooding or backyard drainage to help offset some of those property stormwater issues. And then we do receive revenues, and we're anticipating quite a bit of revenue from some stormwater detention buyouts. I believe Director McLaughlin referenced some of those big economic developments. A lot of those will have buyouts associated with them, which go into this fund for stormwater. And additionally, we usually cover permit review fees. So operationally, we're looking to spend about $127,000. Capital projects, we're looking at another over $4 million. And then we do have $75,000 programmed for the 50-50 program. That's probably a little high, but I like to keep it there so that we can always make sure that's offered to the residents. And then major improvements are the DCO. We're looking at improving what we're calling the Ellsworth ditch. That's the ditch that next to Strats. We clear out the trees. It doesn't flow well. We've had backups and flooding throughout those couple blocks when we do have heavy rains to try to improve that. The Jackson area improvements, which is the extension of the storm sewer to go to the Jackson Pond, down Madison with portions of Wisconsin from Jackson to Washington, and then Addison from Madison to Washington as well. And then we're looking at doing a stormwater improvement on Yale Avenue from Jackson to Madison. The water supply, we do have the rates set. We always have to do an adjustment whenever Chicago ups their rates. DWC had just entered into a new contract this year with Chicago that I believe it's runs for 20 years as they're looking at alternate sources of water. And then we entered into our agreement with DWC to purchase the water from DWC. So I'm anticipating about $5.87 million in revenue from those fees. We bill about 500 million gallons a year to the village, and that's how we kind of come up with that number. And then additionally, we use the utility sales tax transfers. That's the sales tax, the non-home rule sales tax that is dedicated towards utility improvements. Oop. Yeah. One's missing is wastewater, so I'll just do that verbally. It's all right. I have technical difficulties on the transfers. Oh, it's skipping. Yeah. I apologize. I used AI. I'm an engineer. I'm not very good at graphic arts. So for wastewater, similar, we're anticipating about 2.1 million in revenue, another 450. Big project that we're going to try to get out the door this year is the Washington Section 2 project. That's about $11 million project, so we're looking at about $7.5 million in a loan. And then we have the master plan, so we want to do some rehabs. It looks like I forgot to plug in the number, so I apologize on the transfers. Operating-wise, we're about $2.5 million. That's what we have been for the last several years. A lot of that has been gone up is because we have the EPA loans repayments. We just took on Monterey this past year, so now that's the 6th loan payment that we'll have to make this year is for the Monterey improvement. That's incorporated into our operating expenses. And then I'd like to do a wet weather flow treatment facility replacement plan. That includes our CSO outfalls. We have several issues that when Salt Creek gets high, water goes backwards. So we're looking at maybe trying to coordinate a joint review of our treatment plant and those outfalls with Salt Creek. Now that they're making enhancements to their facilities, how can we better utilize the systems? Then capital, we've kind of covered. The other highlight is for the last year, we've been trying to put together improvements to our SCADA. So we're going out to bid here shortly. SCADA is the short term. That's pretty much the brains and the computers of all of our pump stations, both for water and wastewater, and then our wet flow treatment facility. That's the computer system that kind of runs everything. So we're looking at modernizing it, bringing it up. It's several years behind, and being more mobile friendly. Be able to review the plant, review our pump stations, lift stations, electronically on our phones, tablets, so we can be more responsive, and also be able to not have to call people in. If we can see alarm and can see the system, what is it doing, what do we need, and be more attuned with what's actually needed on that system. So that's kind of operations. So I know most of the time everyone wants to know.
Questions on operations? Trustee Kumar.
Just one question about is it passed through? We talked about a 5% increase in cost somewhere, and is it all passed through to the customer directly, or is waste management or whatever the increase falls somewhere on?
I believe it's all passed through.
It's all passed through.
That's your
Okay.
monthly bill, the garbage.
So whatever it is passed through. Okay, just wondering.
We charge each resident a fee. I think that's a set fee, but then we pay
Even the
LRS.
LRS, for instance, that 5%, is that a pass-through also to the resident?
Yes, that's the 5% is
Yeah.
the LRS. So their set fee for the year goes up 5%, and then that gets calculated out into.
To everyone. So
Everyone.
it's just a pass-through, basically? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how that works.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
The capital improvement program. A lot of it was talked about throughout the different departments, so I will start with kind of a major overhaul, big numbers, lots of big numbers. So this is just a summarization. So our infrastructure improvements that we're planning for this year total of about $25 million. In our water system, that's about $3 million, our sanitary system. And I put the CSO in that sanitary system because that's the kind of the separation. That's $11 million. Storm sewer is about $7 million. And then our street network improvement, that's resurfacing, just surface projects, sidewalks, about $3 million. For our fleet and equipment, it's about 1.3. 964,000 is for actual fleet, vehicles, rolling stock, and then about a little less than 400,000 for just equipment throughout the departments. And then the building improvements, I have about $4 million. Obviously with the fire, I think they talked about their major projects. Parks has a few, police, public works, and then village administration. And before we get into those, we always like to show residents what we completed this past year. Just so for our streets, obviously if you drive down Ardmore or Addison in the last couple of weeks, we got all those roads striped. A lot of that road striping was faded, outdated, so now they're are back up to being up to standard. They do have some additional work to be done, so they should be back in town shortly to finish up that project. And then we also did some rejuvenation, which we do every year to try to extend the life of our roadways, especially our new roadways. We completed the tri-trail with the completion photo to the left. And right now, North Wisconsin is under construction and should be completed by the end of November. So that's the North Wisconsin from Vermont to Ridge, I believe, shall be pretty much rebuilt to help improve that section of roadway. And additionally, we've completed about 1.75 miles of sidewalk through all of our projects. And that includes our 50/50 program that's being constructed right now as well. We just wrapped up our water improvements. We did have street improvements as well, Iowa and Vermont. That was a replacement of the water main. It came in about a little less than $1.5 million. We'll have our final change order here hopefully soon. We did save some money. I'd like to save more, but it is less than the awarded bid. And that one, we did receive $600,000 from the county through the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Program. Additionally, we're waiting for a permit to be issued from the IEPA. We had purchased materials to make dead-end connections through the Metro lot. That way we can connect Beverly, Douglas, and Chatham and make a more reliable network through that system so that there's not dead ends on the water main. Sewer separation, finishing up the design of the Washington Sewer Separation, Section 2, and then we completed the Sewer Master Plan update to look at enhancements. Design of Jackson area, we talked about was completed. That's actually out to bid. We should receive bids here in the next couple of weeks, which will be brought before the board. And then the DCO, which we just opened bids and may be looking for a recommendation to award in the upcoming board meetings. So as that kind of looks geographically, I apologize, the green on the green is not showing up well. But we kind of do have projects throughout the whole village. Included up here is the North Avenue project that was just entered into with the IGA with IDOT. So what are we planning on trying to get designed for future years? We should be wrapping up the Villa Avenue improvements. This is from Wildwood to North Avenue. We do have STP funds funded for 2025. Not quite sure we'll get to bidding in 2025, but we should be finished the design. We've been in talks with Elmhurst a little bit on the Illinois 83 intersection with Monroe. That's the Walmart entrance. They're trying to do enhancements in the future on our side when they do enhancements on the west side. We just got FHWA approval to begin our what's called Phase 1 for all of our Ardmore improvement projects. We got STP through that's Surface Transportation Program funding. That's federal program funding through the DMMC, which will be Ardmore from north all the way down to Roosevelt over 3 sections. We got approval to move forward with Phase 1, so we are looking at Ardmore from end to end in our Phase 1. So the environmental clearances and all that will be done in completely from end to end, along with any recommendations. That way we can have a comprehensive plan for each phase, so it's not really segmented, that and the public can have input on what they like to see for bicycle facility improvements, pedestrian improvements, and that we have a comprehensive plan for all 3 phases so that they match. And then those programs are awarded starting in 2027 through 28 and 29, I believe. We're moving forward with the Villa Avenue Bridge. This is the bridge down by the golf course where the surface is terrible, so we're looking at replacing the surface of that and getting federal funding through the Bridge Replacement Program. And then we've completed the feasibility, and we do have $300,000 approved from the ICC to begin Phase 1 on our grade separation. So I'm working on getting an RFQ out to begin the selection of an engineering firm for that project. Water improvements, we'll continue to finish up our Bierman and Myrtle improvements so that we can get that included in the EPA for future funding. And then recently meaning last week or so, the EPA has further refined their lead service inventory and requirements, which require us to test every 6 months now and then look to have the replacement plan condensed to 10 years. We don't have the staffing for that to get that all done. So we're probably looking at going out to update our water master plan, which was last done in 2006, and then incorporate lead services component into that so that we can become eligible for all their grant fundings through a consultant to help update our information, get us in compliance with all the new rules and regulations that they would like to have, because it is a myriad and constantly changing. For wastewater, we do have Wisconsin and Westmore. I know that section of Wisconsin is a high need. We just felt it's very hard to go after loans, let alone 2 loans at the same time through wastewater. So we're hopeful to get Washington this year and then Wisconsin next year. This year being 2025 and the following year in 26. We talked about utilization, and then we need to begin planning for the last section of the Washington improvement. So the projects that we're looking to actually construct this year. Road maintenance, we have $425,000 programmed for resurfacing, striping, patching. We're looking at probably doing Park Avenue from Ardmore to Cornell to try to tie in that last section of the Ardmore kind of area. Now that Central was done and the other side of Park was done. I have a typo. I put Ardmore. That should be the Terrace Alley that was referenced in Director McLaughlin's presentation. We have the North Avenue, and then we do have a $140,000 DCO grant to do sidewalks. That was approved, so we are finishing up design, so that will be a spring bidding. As you may remember, that would be for also the infill in Illinois and Maple, as included in that project. Stormwater, we have the Harvard Avenue from Plymouth to Ridge. That's been designed. We've kind of shelved it for a little bit to make sure we have money. We'd like to move forward with that one in this upcoming year to get that water main upgraded. That's an area that we have a lot of high breaks in quite a bit. So we like to be more reliable in that area. And then we also have the Princeton Water Tower. This is at Station 82, so we're also trying to time them up maybe, so when they're moved out, we can get it painted this upcoming summer, as that tower is in need of recoding what we similarly did on Home Avenue. So that one, we have the proposals put together. We're going through the final draft and should have them out on the street probably in the upcoming weeks. Sewer separation, we talked about Washington already. And then the stormwater improvements, we've kind of talked about those. But some of the numbers tied to the project so that you have an idea of the magnitude of these projects.
Two things real quick here. Everywhere it says DCEO grant, those are grants that we receive from our state legislature. So the relationships you guys build with the state legislature help us to get those monies from Susie Glowiak Hilton and Diane Blair Sherlock, particularly on those projects. And then the other part is the terrace alley that's by the shops on Ardmore. There's a small alley that is public right-of-way that's deteriorating over there, that's just north of the railroad tracks parallel to Terrace Avenue. So it's kind of obscure in case you didn't know where that was.
Thank you, Mayor Harlan. One that you won't see, it's on this list, but with the buildings being covered mostly by grounds, in reference to that DCO grant and our local legislatures, we'd like to thank them. They did give us $250,000 to begin improvements to our salt storage facility. If you drive by our public works yard, it's not the prettiest. So we'll use that $250,000 to do site prep work that's needed, some paving of the lot, some fencing, and get it prepared so that we can build a building to enclose the salt, hopefully in 2026. And I believe that was Goliath Hilton gave us that funding. Vehicles. We have a lag again. There we go. So our vehicle replacement, as mentioned earlier tonight, we do have the enterprise lease. In this upcoming year, it'll be $185,000 in lease payments. So our annual payment from this last year, which includes 12 vehicles, 2 of which we haven't received yet, is $131,000, or $132 actually. And then the new payments will increase another $58,000. The police had mentioned we were placing 4 squad cars to include in their fleet, to keep their fleet kind of on that annual basis of rolling through, since they're high-use vehicles. We have 2 in Public Works, and then 1 in engineering, to kind of replace some of the older fleet vehicles. Additionally, we have some larger purchases.
We did actually add a fire vehicle this year because we didn't get a couple of the items like the bus this year. So we had some money that we didn't spend on lease payments. So we added a new deputy chief. So we're buying one a little bit early, and or leasing one a little bit early and leasing an additional one. So that's not reflected here because it will be in this fiscal year, but it wasn't. We didn't tell you about that before. So
I think it's out of juice. It's a long night. With the fire department, they kind of touched on this, but we're coming up with the last payment from 2020 on one of them. We do have the new 2024 fire, well, I call it 24, I don't know essentially what you guys call it, the fire truck that was just purchased. We had lump summed that into a line of credit, so we do have payments on those. And to reinforce the fact, of looking at the possibility of a new ambulance order in 25, so that there may be a possibility of receiving it in 26. Our Public Works, we do have our lease payment for our Vector truck and our one of our new plow trucks, or our plow truck that's coming. In 25, we do have a replacement of this lower photo here of our aerial bucket truck. That bucket truck is rather old, and it's coming upon its 5-year inspection. In May of this year, in 2025, that 5-year inspection is at least $45,000 and can range up to $60,000. That's the safety, I forget the actual technical name, but it's pretty much a full-blown inspection of the truck and hydraulics and the controls and all that good, and all those items. And then that will be a 5-year reoccurring inspection as long as you own the truck. So we would like to purchase a new one. I believe that truck is nearly 20 years old, so we do have some price ranges of about $200,000. And the newer trucks will, and this will kind of go for the next one, will also be ordered and delivered before new emission standards set in. And those new emissions standards set in, that also raises the cost of any new diesel engine, probably $30,000. The new trucks will not require that 5-year inspection, so in itself, if we keep it for 15 years, we just paid for the truck and through inspections. That would be our goal, is to keep it at least 15, 20 years. Additionally, it'll be safer. This past year, we had an issue where the bucket didn't want to come back down. So we don't like to have staff elevated trimming trees when the bucket doesn't want to come down. Now it's not liking the projector. Additionally, we would probably also be proposing a new plow truck to be ordered in 2025. Again, that's if we can get the order in before January 1st. That will reduce the possibility of paying that as well. It will have fall under the old emission standards for the diesel. So that would be about a savings of $30,000. Price trucks, this would be for a single axle plow truck. All of our plow trucks are, except for the new one, are over 20 years old. So we did the same thing as Chief was alluding to earlier. We bought all of them around the same 2 years. Now they're all 20 years plus, and we have a large stock. So we're looking at trying to space them out a little bit so we don't run into the same situation down the road. I don't know how I got it to come back up last time. So that is something that we're requesting. Parks and Rec, they are looking at replacement of the bus. That was in this year's budget. It's about $140,000 for the recreational bus, and they're also asking for a new Kubota mower.
I think it's a projector that sucks.
Capital equipment, I think most of this has all been covered.
plus one.
Let me just make a quick edit here. IT does have, replaced the vCenter host server, and then the Wi-Fi switches that Assistant Manager McVeigh had referred to earlier. Total, that's about $100,000. Public Works, we're looking at a wheel balancer. That's not $160,000. I think I have a typo. I apologize. And then Parks and Rec has a few items. And then the Police Department also has two $50,000 DCO grants that we're trying to work through on. They have several projects, but where do we, that money's out, I think it's eligible for the fence, it's eligible for some of the building modifications, and trying to figure out the best approach for that. So they do have two $50,000 DCO grants to fund some of those projects. And why you can't see, that's pretty much the capital budget in a very quick
Any other
synopsis.
questions? Trustee Kumar.
The 2014 capital improvement project, where are we done with that? Are there still streets in that? What's left in that?
So yes, I had my notes, I probably should have mentioned this. So last year, we were about 78% completed through the 2014 referendum. This year, with those completed projects, we completed another 7% of those projects. That would bring us to 85%.
So what streets are left?
So Yale, the one to be programmed this year is left in that. The other portion of Yale that needs in Washington sewer separation, Phase 3. Euclid, which is in this upcoming Washington sewer separation. The Wisconsin Avenue that's included in the Jackson area that's going out to bid is included in that. So if we get the Jackson area improvement project, Yale and Harvard, and the Washington sewer separation, it pretty much just leaves Myrtle, Bierman, and Wisconsin from Washington to Kenilworth, which are all under designed and hopefully planned for 2026.
So, because that's our strategic initiative, first of all, to finish those. And what do you see in the next 5 years as, like, possibilities for streets that need to be done or are in bad shape? Don't say
Yeah.
all of Villa Park.
No. That's a good question. So last year, we did an AI generator with a cell phone that rated the roads through what's called not a PCI, but it's more of a passer rating, a visual inspection, the number of cracks, potholes, those sort of things. The AI technology now can use cell phone images and kind of extract that. So we're about, I don't have it up. We presented, I think we're in the 80% of our roads are what's graded, like it's on 1 to 5 scale, 3 or better. We're under contract to renew that again this year so that we can have annual data to see how the improvements are done, the percentage of the roadways, the condition of those roadways. And once we get that completed, we are looking at utilizing that for 27, 28, 29 outside the large federal funding and grants that we've received or going after.
Yeah, because I was walking around town a lot this weekend, and people on Adams not happy with their street, said lots of potholes, lots of problems. And so when you walk, but on the other side, I mean, the north side of Villa Park, some of the places are looking beautiful, honestly. Lots of nice sidewalks in, beautiful job, you know, in some parts of Villa Park. But there's always, roads go, it's Illinois, they come and go, so there's always going to be a need. I just wondering how we determine after the 2014 stuff is all finished, pretty much, how we determine.
And part of that plan is making sure we can find the rest of the funding to complete that project. And then also setting standards in terms of part of the pavement program, pavement plan that's in the strategic plan also involves setting targets for percentage of the roads that are, 1, 2, 3, scored 1, 2, 3, and making sure that we get that to an acceptable level and stay at that acceptable level.
So what were we scored at in the last reading?
So there's 5 different scales, and there we go. You got it?
This is something different. I was going to highlight. I forgot. I can look it up. I can send that information. It's on a dashboard. It's on my computer. So I can't pull up that website to
No,
show you.
that's fine. If you could, that would be nice to see, just to say, well, residents always come to trustees with this question, because that's their big thing. What do you do as a trustee, and, how do you help, fix the roads or whatever, is a question that comes to us a lot. And it would be nice to say, yes, we are kind of assessing this. This is where your road is, and, get back with the information at least, like, well, you're gonna have to wait a while, or it's coming soon, in terms of, that we are seeing that it's not in a good shape, so.
Yeah, to try to assist with that, on the bottom of that map page is a link. And so what we have done recently is updated a GIS map, online map that's embedded on our website under our construction projects update. That has this dashboard that shows all the projects that are currently under design or being proposed, what year those projects are, and then what year's upcoming. And then you can, it's hard to see with this light, but there's all the grade projects that also shows all the projects that have been completed going back to, I believe, 2009, I believe is the year.
Yeah, I think a
assistant
lot
manager.
of people want to know when because there's a lot of people who move in. They have no clue when last their street was done. There are a few people who have been here since, like me, forever, and know kind of that the street has been done, has not been done. Because streets wear down, irrespective, sometimes geographically, they are more likely to wear down than other streets, even though they might have recently been done. So those are things that happen.
Correct. So yeah, so that's what the intention of this map is to kind of show which roads have been done in the different years that they were done, and then which projects are being proposed upcoming.
Okay, so that's kind of nice to see, yeah. Where is that in the construction projects dashboard? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice to see, okay. That's, it's just what I want to point people to if they want information.
I think that combined with the sort of the progression to show how much, that we are analyzing the streets on a regular basis, on an annual basis, and seeing which streets are in good, fair, poor, in the different 1 through 5 conditions, and showing the percent changing and, increasing more and more 1, 2, 3s, fewer and fewer 4 and 5s.
Actually,
I think that's
decreasing on average is what you're saying.
well, and that's where data really helps. I mean, I walk my dog and I see the same streets every day, and you know what? Every day they don't, that street doesn't get better. But there are streets that, if you drive around and you see the projects that we're working on, it does. I think it isn't as happy as the person who lives on Adams Street who sees Adams Street get done. But if he knows that, we just replaced, we just redid right out in front of the Michigan and Iowa, right by the school, by Jefferson.
It helps,
Middle School.
it certainly helps, but then everybody's question is, when is my street coming up eventually, And every street is gonna come up eventually, because it has to. That's
Right.
just the nature of the beast. I mean, like, at one point, you've got to do every street. Now, some of it is grant funding, right? So we end up doing Ardmore and Villa and the main thoroughfares, because that's easier to get grant funding for North Avenue. They're used more too. There's 2 reasons for that, but the inner streets, not as much, because we really don't have the same funding for that, in terms of,
And one of the
it's a sewer separation kind of thing.
Right. Well, the other part is, we do sort of have a plan for going forward and fixing streets, but some things deteriorate faster, and you hate to make say, hey, you said you were going to get to my street in 2007, and here it's, because sometimes things fall off. We don't get as many roads done as possible. It costs more than we expected. Something happens, and the street has to be moved forward. But yeah, so we do like to give a general idea. It's just that if you promise you're going to get to somebody's street in 2008 or 2028, and you don't get to that street in 2028, then that's almost worse than not promising sometimes. But we do want to come up with at least next year, what we're looking to do.
Okay, thanks.
So I think to quickly answer your question. So in 2023, the average score on a 1 to 5, or average score for the village is 2.85. That's overall for all of our networks. And then we have about 13% that are in the the rating one, so it's 1 to 5, 5 being the worst. We had 28% in the rating 2, 28% in the rating 3, 21% in 4, and then about 9% in the poor. Obviously, we're hopeful to see, because a lot of the roads that we've done this year and the year prior, where a lot of them are in that lower range. But we also hit some of the roads with the Rebuild Illinois that were in the marginal range to try to bring them up. So we want to hit those 2 and low 3s to try to bring them up, because if we can hit it when it's kind of low 3, that's resurfacing. It's expensive, but it's not as expensive as what we have to do to rebuild the entire roadway. So, and then the village has been very diligent and very good, even before I got here, about the reclamite, of utilizing that to extend the life of the roadways in good condition, so that we can soften that curve to bounce out farther out, so that we can extend the life.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Anyone else?
One good thing I want to say before, I did see that we're working together on, like, Villa, for instance, with DuPage County. They did fill all the potholes, fix that whole section. Now it looks like one contiguous piece, even though that part wasn't really ours. So that was nice that that got done within this year too. A lot of times things like that on the edges, which don't necessarily fall under Public Works, or you would see a straight cut, but it's kind of not Villa, Summit between Harrison and pretty much up to Walgreens. There used to be a lot of potholes that all got fixed, and that's really nice to see that it was done.
Yeah, that was York
And that-
Township.
Yeah, that's the township that we worked together to get that done. So it's something, even those things matter to us as a village, not all what we get done, but the reach out also helps. And
It
so,
was a good reach out with York Township, because they did some stuff outside of
Yeah,
what we had.
we partnered with York Township. They took the lead, but yes, we partnered with them to do the infill of locations that's under the village jurisdiction. Because like you say, residents don't understand that there's a hard line in the road from this spot to this spot, so
but
it
a
makes
lot of
sense of
times,
the
that's, you know,
network.
what they see that pothole, and then that's more calls for Public Works, even though it's really not part of your duties. So,
Okay.
good job on that, is all I'm saying.
Well, I appreciate the sophistication of knowing that was two different jurisdictions working together, so thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I'd like to thank staff. You guys did a great job, all the department heads and staff, and Manager Harline. You guys did a great job getting this together. Thanks to everyone that came out tonight and helped us out here. Appreciate all your hard work. And I'm sure our residents do too. Thank you. Okay, with that, I don't see any public here, so there's no public comments.
I just have a quick question.
Oh, sure.
A couple meetings back, I was talking about the third quarter, having a discussion about third quarter. In the meeting, I had previously asked to have it before the budget, but discussion. When might I expect the third quarter discussion?
Third quarter financial. Yeah, it should be.
Next week, okay.
Okay. Okay, with that, we will go to item 5, which is executive session. Pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C11 regarding litigation, when action against, affecting, or on behalf of the village has been filed and is pending before a court, or when the village finds that an action is probable or imminent, we have a motion to go into executive session. Second? Trustee Kumar. Okay, questions, comments? Okay, Clerk Konecki.
Hey, Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Alfano?
Yes.
Trustee Cordova?
Yes.
Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
President Casal?
Yes, so we will go into executive session. We will adjourn our meeting out of executive session, so we will be back here a week from today on the 28th for our regular board meeting. So thanks for everyone for tuning in.